Hey, I'm excited to talk to you today about what it means to be the best version of yourself. What if becoming the best version of yourself doesn't mean becoming someone different? Think about that. This is a mindset that needs to stop today. What if it actually means becoming more fully who you already are? You are enough. You're designed with purpose because somewhere along the way, a lot of women, capable women, start believing that improvement means fixing themselves, correcting themselves, reshaping themselves into someone else's idea of success. And along the way, if you choose this route, you will lose who you actually are and were meant to be. But truly, that's not how growth works, and that's not how God works. You were not randomly assembled. You were designed with specific strengths, instincts, abilities, and gifts. And becoming the best version of yourself isn't about replacing those things. It's about recognizing them, developing them, and then using them well so that we all can share in and benefit from your talents. Why do women underestimate themselves? We do this. You know we do. I bet you actually did this today. It's not because we lack ability. It's because we've quietly lowered our own expectations, little by little by little, to the point that we don't trust ourselves. Sometimes to do anything, however small it might be, for certain, nothing extraordinary. We say things like, I'm just not that disciplined. I'm not naturally confident. I'm not the type of person who does that. Or my favorite from my teaching days, when I used to listen to parents at parent-teacher conference, when they would say to their own kid, I wasn't good at math, so it's not surprising you aren't either. Oh, that drives me crazy. But when you start defining yourself by your current habits instead of your potential, okay, these things can be different. Something subtle happens. You literally stop growing. Like a plant that needs water, you don't stretch. In fact, you actually wilt. You stop expecting more from yourself, and this is the point that you change your own path. Truly, right? You get on a path that's not meant for you. And over time, that gap between who you are and who you start to be feels like frustration or the sense that you're capable of more, but you're not quite living it yet, and shows up like unhappiness. It's not a random feeling. It's your potential asking for attention. Sometimes quietly, sometimes it's yelling at you to do something, anything, please. So let's talk about what it actually means to become the best version of yourself. I've got 3 really important points to share because it starts in a place that most people skip. This dreaded term called self-awareness. I can't tell you how important this is. It's your starting line. I love this idea. I loved running track when I was in high school. I was a hurdler. Getting on that starting line with that adrenaline going, like ready to run my best race. Before you can become your best self, you have to understand your current self. That means paying attention to things like, and take the time to actually answer, how do you respond when something is difficult? What patterns show up when you feel pressure? Do you tend to avoid responsibility? Where do you naturally excel? You got to think about this stuff. Self-awareness is supposed to be uncomfortable, sometimes because it requires honesty. But it's also incredibly powerful because once you can clearly see your own patterns, you gain the ability to change them. For example, maybe you notice that you procrastinate when something feels overwhelming. Or you notice that you say yes to things you don't really want to do. Oh boy, have I done that in my life. Or maybe you realize that you tend to underestimate your own ability before you even try. You undersell your own self and then you don't think you can do it. When you start observing these patterns instead of ignoring them, like turning your head, something important happens. You can gain control. You stop reacting automatically and start responding intentionally. You might even start to wonder what would happen if you could change a few things, habits, practices that you have to make meaningful improvements. And that's where growth begins. The choice first, at the starting line of your life, and it can be today. Okay. Number 2, you were designed with capacity. I love the idea of capacity. When I was an industrial engineer, my job was to figure out how to maximize the capacity on machines in our manufacturing facilities so that they were busy all day. The same idea you should also consider when trying to maximize yourself. One of the most powerful shifts in personal growth is recognizing that your abilities are not accidental. God designed you with a mind that can learn, a will that can choose, and a body that can adapt. And lastly, a spirit that can endure. You were built with the capacity to grow, but capacity only matters if you choose to use it. Think about this. If someone owns a beautiful piece of land, but never plants anything in it, the land still has the potential, but nothing grows. Your gifts work the same way. You might have the ability to lead, to reach, or teach, to create, to solve problems, to encourage people to build something meaningful. But if you constantly minimize your own self, those abilities stay dormant. Not because they weren't there, but because they weren't cultivated. Becoming the best version of yourself means treating your abilities like something valuable that deserves development and your full attention, not something you downplay or ignore. Don't do that. Don't do that to anybody. Use your talents, all of them, right? Have a field that grows. And then, this one I saw a lot as a teacher. Stop minimizing your own expectations. As a teacher, when I heard my students start a sentence with, "I can't do that, Mrs. Williams," I would always say, "Yes, you can. You just don't want to. You can do anything." As a parent, my husband and I instilled in our kids that they could do anything and then expose them to life experiences so they could not only try their different talents, they could also see things they might not have considered. A lot of people talk about limiting beliefs, but one of the most common limits isn't belief, it's expectation. Many women quietly lower their expectations for themselves because it feels safer. If you expect less from yourself, you avoid disappointment. You avoid pressure. You avoid the possibility of failure. But when you do that, it's like a bar. It keeps going lower. If you lower expectations, you lower your growth. Becoming your best self means raising the standard of what you expect from yourself, not in a harsh way, but in an honest way. You start asking better questions. What am I actually capable of? What would happen if I tried harder than I usually do? What skill could I develop if I practiced it consistently? What responsibility could I handle if I stopped doubting myself first? You stop assuming that your current limits are permanent and you start treating them like something that can be expanded. Because most people are far more capable than they've ever tested. And this is so true. Please believe this. So the best version of yourself is not some imaginary future person. It's you with clarity, you with discipline, you using the gifts that were already placed inside of you. Becoming that person doesn't require a completely new personality. It requires awareness, it requires honesty, and it requires the willingness to stop minimizing what you are capable of. Because here's the truth. You were not designed to live a small, hesitant life. You were designed with the ability to learn, grow, adapt, and contribute something meaningful. Knowledgeable and understanding will make you wise, but that version of you doesn't appear automatically. She's built decision by decision, habit by habit, expectation by expectation, and every time you choose growth over comfort, honesty over avoidance, and responsibility over doubt, you take one step closer to becoming exactly who you were created to be. And that person is you. Just be you.